Hey guys, this is Eric Weingarten with Weingarten Racing. Today's video is about the dyno testing that was done on carb spacers. If there's a spacer out there, I have probably tested it and on multiple things. So using all that I've gathered, I'm going to tell you some things I think work out the best and some things that work out not very good. So we'll go through them. In general, most of the time what I test with is a 1-inch spacer like so. And the reason for it is most of your hood clearance limited. So 1 inch seems to be about it. Granted, the 2-inch ones probably made more power and torque, but we've only did a little bit of that stuff with it. So most of my testing that I'm talking about in this video and in the past has involved a 1-inch spacer, maybe 1.5. 2-inch, pretty rare. We'll start off with this one. This is actually the magic if you have a 4150 intake manifold. And you're like, what? This is a 1-inch open spacer. If you have a dual plane, whether it has a divider cut out or not, for whatever reason, this has been the best one, the 1-inch open. Several of you want to try putting on something that looks like this, which is a 4-hole. This is actually a tapered design. This one always has made less power on a dual plane than just having a 1-inch open. So if you have a dual plane, this seems to be the most popular one, and it seems like it works the best. This 1-inch open. Cheapest ones to get, very easy to get. However, if you have a single plane manifold, that changes. Then it's this. This actual one that I'm holding comes from AFR. This is their AFR plastic one. I believe it's made in America. It's got a cone that you can see in the center. It's got this. It's a nice 4-hole tapered model. Of all the tapered spacers, 4-hole tapered ones, this probably is the cheapest one you can get. And I think they ran at the time as $47. I think they're up to $50 now. They're cheaper even than the Chinese ones. I have tested this against HVH and other billet CNC'd 4-hole tapered nice ones that cost up to $200. This one's the best. And I think it's because if you notice, the cone actually sticks out beyond that. But this one really works really well. So is it like some magic thing that makes way more than your open? No, in general, if you ever have a spacer that tells you it's worth 20 horsepower, they're full of crap. In general, typically you'll make maybe 4, if you're really lucky, 8. But that's about it, and usually about 2 to 4 foot-pounds of torque. But this one works pretty good. Can't complain. By far one of my favorite ones when you're doing a 1-inch. However, there's another spacer that's really been magic for me on most of the stuff I ran. And it's a little different, so bear with me as I explain it, and that's this one. This particular spacer has been absolutely money on so many things, but not all things, which we'll get to a little bit later in this. This particular one comes from HVH. This is their super sucker, but it's not normal. So this one is an adapter. So on the bottom here, this is the part that actually bolts to the manifold. This is a 4150, and the top here is for a Dominator. This allows you to run a Dominator carburetor on a 4150 style intake manifold. I will admit, when I first started testing this, I thought this was a piece of crap. There's no way this is going to work. This thing has worked fabulously on lots of stuff. This used to be like my Frank's Red Hot sauce. I'd put that on anything and it'd make power. So how much? On a dual plane, you know how I said that this one was the best, this 1-inch open? It is if you're running a 4150. But on a dual plane, whether it be big block or small block, this one has typically been better by, dig this, almost 15 foot-pounds of torque, which is outstanding, and like about 10 horsepower. Pretty outstandingly good. And on single planes, same thing. It seems like it gains a lot. But here's the catch, and this is a really important catch I need you to pay attention to. Again, it's not on everything, because this spacer, as good as it was, I used it on a small block Chevy, gain. Big block Chevy, gain. LS didn't do anything. On an LS carburetor deal, didn't gain 1 horsepower. So Ford didn't gain 1 horsepower. And here's where it gets even worse tricky. Sometimes whenever you put these on the same tile engine, it doesn't gain, which we'll get to in a second when I talk about my next one. But here's the biggest thing about this. Some of you right now are going to try rush out to buy this. Here's the bad news for you, and it's truly is bad news. When I first started testing this one, a viewer like you guys that are watching this had sent this particular, not this exact one, but sent in the spacer just like this for me to test with. And I was in the assumption that that's the only one way that HVH made them. So I tested a lot of tests with it, and then the viewer needed it back, so I sent it back. Well, then I bought a new one from HVH, which happens to be this one. And then when I started testing, it didn't do as good. It never could beat just your regular 4150. And I tapered, and I was like, that's strange and odd. Why? What is going on? And then I did some closer looking. So I'm going to show you. Hopefully you can see this on camera. This is the new one. So if you order an HVH tapered 4150 to 4500, you will get this. This is the old style. Notice the center. This is the new one, old one. I ended up doing a further dyno test. I bought this from somebody on Facebook Marketplace and tested it against the new one, and I was right. The old style was superior. This probably took longer for them to machine, hence they do this now. Faster than machine, not as good. So that's where the downside of this comes into play. This is really good, the old style HVH tapered 4-hole. The downside, you can't get it unless you find it on Facebook Marketplace. Good news though, this thing was slightly better. And you're like, what is this? Well, this is an Eric Weingartner special. This is actually a 4-hole tapered spacer. This is made of plastic. This comes from the guys at Polymer Racing Products. They actually have this available now. It's the same type of spacer. This is a 4-hole tapered, but theirs is different. If you notice, theirs comes to a point like this, and if you can kind of tell, it's dimpled. They were nice enough, they made this as a prototype just for me to try. And so this was probably the first one that they had, and I dyno tested it with it a bunch because I wanted to see how well this thing would actually do. To my surprise, it actually, and I'm not making this up, it slightly beat the old style HVH, which was a huge, huge benefit because these are available for you guys to buy. I don't sell them directly, but I'm sure that you can get them from Polymer Racing Products. Anyway, this has been really, really great. It's nice to use. It's slightly taller, but this one works really, really well. But again, here's where things get weird. The problem with spacers in general is they don't always do the same on every engine. So a prime example is this. If you know, a few weeks or maybe a month ago, depending on when you're watching this, I was dyno testing with Bob McVeigh Motorsports. He's the guy that does the engines for Old Man's Garage, and we were dyno testing with his 427 small block Chevy. Has my Dragon Slayers on it and this BMP intake that was fully ported. We bolt this on and pulled the Dominator on, and it was worth 5 horsepower. So it's still 5 horsepower. So that was a pretty good gain. We put Bill's engine on right after. His engine is a 434 small block Chevy, and it had 11.2 compression ratio and similar cam. We put the same intake back on, same spacer, nothing. Didn't hurt anything. Didn't make 1 horsepower more or 1 foot-pound of torque better. That's the problem with the carburetor intake, with the spacer test. They just are not uniform. So worked great for one, not for the other, and the engines weren't that far off. Same cylinder head, same intake, same manifold, carburetor, compression, made a difference. Anyway, hopefully you guys got something out of it. In case you're wondering, I'm gonna hold this up, not that you much care, but this is the difference between that 1-inch open spacer and the AFR 4150 tapered. You can tell it's relatively close, but it is worth something. So again, one of the things you need to watch out for though is if you ever hear a spacer company telling you it's worth 20, they're lying. Something else was off. But there's my generalities about spacers. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. Feel free to leave a comment or whatnot. You guys remember, I am no Superman. I did race Superboy. I do not port cast iron heads. I do not respond to Facebook or Instagram messages. The best way to get a hold of me is through email at weingartnerracing@gmail.com. You guys take care.